We're live. We're live. Hey everyone. So from the get-go, so this will be on the recording for people who watch this back. Just woken up. I'm a bit shaggy, but I thought, fuck it. I wanna, I wanna share some things. I felt pretty inspired this morning to share from a direct experience about some of the things that have been happening for me with travel and non-dual investigations. So for the recording, I think my intention is to share, and I think what this will connect with is people who are on the spiritual path of awakening, people who are like watching teachers like Adyashanti, Muji, Angelo Dilullo, Josh Putnam, David McDonald, Violet Synergy. Uh, so many people I could say, so many teachers. These sorts of people, non-dual speakers, maybe like Paul Hederman, but people who are like really struggling with the trauma integration aspect. So maybe in what I mean by that is the as you wake up, as you rest as consciousness more and more, as you rest as awareness, as you rest as God, that tends to bring up with it a large degree of traumatized emotional material, that stuff that we've pushed down in the past through no fault of our own, through through emotional repression, denying our authentic expression, cultivating beliefs and identities and these sorts of things. And as they soften, it opens up consciousness. Yeah. And this is a model. We don't need to take it too literally, but this has been my experience, and it seems that of many people as well. So as that happens, some of us, myself included, which is why I'm so passionate about sharing from about almost like opening the heart more. We encounter these energies, and I'm talking like, I don't want to carry with it this sense of spiritual victimhood, but it seems that some people just like through karma, however you want to say, or some people experience this to a pretty significant degree, trauma, and that can come as big trauma, like something like sexual abuse, something like being raised in the Bronx. Some of the interviews I've seen on Angelo Dilullo's channel recently with people who are like really raised in these traumatizing situations where they truly need to be in fight or flight to survive basically their whole life, and put on this thick armor to defend themselves like we would if we were, traumatized, deeply traumatized. It makes a lot of sense. But there's also small trauma. So when your parents aren't modeling a safe environment for you, whether that's through overt, so very obvious things like they're arguing and abusing each other and fighting all the time, these sorts of things, or just like misattunement, where there's a lot of emotional repression and these sorts of things, right? Where the parents are otherwise with good intention looking after us, but they're misattuning to us. They're not matching our emotional needs and our expression, and they're repressing their own emotion again through no fault of their own. It just happens that way, and then we take that on as a child, and we feel that trauma in the body. So that's a very long-winded way of saying that I want to speak to that person, and share from my direct experience. I want to take myself off like a teaching perspective in this sort of dialogue, um, and just share from direct experience as someone who's on the path, because these explorations are so rich for me right now. So Hmm. So I think that's what's this sort of dialogue. If you're going to invest yourself in this, I've got three people in the stream now, so you can say, hey, basically, I'm just introducing this for the recording. So feel free to drop in to say hi or anything like that as well. But a lot of this is just me monologuing off the cuff, and I'll probably go through my phone and just reflect on some experiences and really bring it into like how can we so what's in it for you would be basically to I hope that my from sharing from my experience about the very subtle and often not talked about aspects of waking up in real life, basically like engaging in the world, how we can relate to these things like contractions in a meaningful way that will help us wake up more deeply, to see clearly, see reality as it is, but also suffer less, not buy into the narratives and the stories that we constantly tell ourselves through mind identification and stories and these sorts of things. So really what's called for and what's been called for me is a almost like a warrior mindset here with travel, because with travel it's basically being thrust into the unknown, especially with solo travel. Like finding that a lot of my experience has been like opening up to like, really having to like through like you sort of need to. I need to open my heart because as I said at the start, as we drop away all these layers of identity, what's left is uh, just such a visceral, raw human experience. And that means like feeling fear, feeling dread, feeling like helplessness, feeling like sadness, feeling um, and other things as well, like sexual energies or social fears and these sorts of things, or like unsafety, being in a completely foreign environment and then having to adapt, and then not being able to dissociate into thought and numb out and suck on the pacifier of thought to distance ourselves from the very visceral, raw, energetic experience of being alive in a human body. That's not really available once we start waking up, right? So the the temptation to suck on that pacifier or to fall back into like the sweet honeysuckle of samsara is so strong, especially when we are feeling strong suffering. So yeah, man, I'm really this whole travel experience has been quite profound for me because it's like coming up against that the edges of identity constantly. Now I'm more settled, more settled in experience, but man, it's been teaching me a lot. So I'll show a photo here on my phone. It's a shitty photo, but this is me probably about a month ago. So about a month and 10 days ago, I was at a very low, shitty quality image. That's me at Brisbane Airport in Australia, about to go on the plane. For some reason, it almost makes me emotional. I feel like a sense of like sadness welling up here, but not very mild. But anyway, I remember in that moment, if you were to zoom in, let's zoom in on Sam's body here. Look at that face, man. Look at that. Look at that sort of like tight lip. Just the feeling of the person, my good dear friend who I love dearly, who dropped me off. Um, she was with me, and um, in that moment, look like I'm about to either take a shit or burst into tears or something. But in that moment, I reflect on my experience, and I was feeling in the body like I'm about to step into the fucking unknown here. Like I've never traveled. I have no idea where I'm going. I don't have any plan. I don't have anything. But here I am, and I'm like, right. So when you're in that moment of like, when you're really coming up against the edge of identity, and something like thought is trying to grab you. It's like, don't do it, don't do it, don't do it. And it's sort of like this feeling of floating a little bit, like you're really about to do something that you're unfamiliar with, yeah. Josh Putnam puts this, talks about this as like courage, courage to go into the unknown. But yeah, wow, in that experience, I think it's helpful for like, and what I've been learning through this experience is those of us who are dealing with trauma while waking up is in that moment when we're about to step into the unknown, we really have a choice. We can buy into the story and the narrative that's saying you're going to die, or we can really apply our insights that we've been cultivating on the cushion at home, for example. For me, that looked like in that moment, softening into the body, putting attention right into the most painful parts of experience that is saying no, 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 don't do it, don't do it. And in that moment at the airport, that was intense sadness, grief that I was leaving the familiar. Like, literally felt like I was a little child in that moment, which is as a grown adult. But as I said, like as identity layers drop away, I can't numb out to these identities anymore. Like, oh yeah, I'm a strong, fully grown man, and like put on this macho front or something. It's just like it just doesn't seem that feasible anymore. And this is like what happens as the heart opens, I think, is we just feel the rawness. And I've heard Angelo Dilullo talk about it, like before awakening, we can numb out to these sorts of things. But when we're driving in a car, as we wake up, for instance, I think he described a very visceral experience. And I relate to this. Is like, then all of a sudden you can't numb out to thought. And then when you're driving a car, it's like, holy fuck, this truck that is driving right next to me could literally kill me right now. Could kill me. It's like fear all of a sudden, because we're no longer in like thinking of past and future, not even present. We're just right here. Right? So it's this different landscape of experience, which is, it's very normal. It's not to like put it in this grandiose, like spiritual thing, but it's just amazing how our mind can numb out. So here's me. So after I took that step, I was in the plane. So that was January 7th, just quite recently. Again, just checking into the body, there was a lot of like somatic pain, just going into the unknown, feeling that like fear of the unknown. And then here's another cute sad boy photo of me looking like, here we go, baby. But there was sort of a courage there as well. It's like, yeah, I'm doing this. Like, let's go. Solo travel. And then the looking at the classic, looking out the plane window. Okay, so yeah, and that was oh my god. I remember like I love this meme. But while I'm on the plane, I was talking to my brother, I think, or before I was, because I didn't have internet on the plane, but I was describing the feeling because it was my first time taking off on the plane. I don't know if you guys know this meme, but it's like when you have caffeine, but the when you have caffeine, but there's no changes in level of exhaustion, but you just feel restlessness in your body, and that's what it looks like. Cracks me up. But for me, that was like when you're taking off in a plane with total sensory immersion into the sense fields. I'll tell you that actually, it's really cool being in with non-duality. Like, so there's all these thoughts that can arise. Like when I was on the plane, it was so cool. Like it's just like, you know what? And this might be a coping thought as well, but I was just sitting in the plane, and as the plane takes off, when attention is so fully immersed in the sensation of what's arising, just in the felt, only the felt, right? So it's just sitting in this plane, and it's just like this act of surrender. It's just like, okay, I'm sitting in the plane. There's nothing I can do. So it's fascinating watching what happens in the body. It's fascinating, like this new experience, right? So the body's like doing all this, like it's firing up all of the sensation of like, oh, will and like thoughts like, will the plane crash? What are other people feeling? What are they thinking, right? Um, but then just dropping away right into the immediate experience of just being alive. And it's kind of fun, you know. It's just like the plane's taking off, it's rumbling, it's doing this crap, it's picking up speed, and it's like, whoa, and you're feeling the thrust of it and all the sensation and like fear. But it's just like I was kind of enjoying it, you know. It's like being in the fear and feeling the fear full on, and then it's just being thrust into the air, making don't making any story about it, like letting go of stories. And it's cool. It's like in that way, there's fearlessness because even fear is accommodated. Like just like any narrative that's saying like the plane might crash, what if, it's just immediately let go, and then there's then there's just sensation, and it's like a massage. It's like getting a sensation massage, you know. So, oh, dude, fuck, Arib, thank you for being here, man. I'm so glad you're here. I hope you got my email, by the way. I reached out to you, dude. Um, but yeah, taking off in this plane, and yeah, any narrative is just let go of, and I think the thought arose in that moment of taking off from the plane, like if this plane crashes, like fuck yeah, I'll go down with it. You know, it's just more sensation, and if I die, I die. And it's so it's like even dread. Like if dread came as the plane was going down or something, it's like okay, like what else am I gonna do? I'll just be with this experience, you know. So it was pretty fun. Anyway, that was my first planing experience. Like I'd never been on a plane before, so like so much unknown. And I went to Thailand, so this will be my reflections on Thailand. So this is arriving at Samui, Koh Samui Airport, and so it took about 18 hours to get to Koh Samui. Koh Samui is an island in the southern southeast, I believe, sorry, southwest of Thailand, and it's a pretty touristy location. Koh Samui, like you see a lot of tourists there, but I didn't really care. I just wanted to go to somewhere that was that just shook me out of my comfort zone. Okay, so let's keep going here. Oh yeah, that was my first meal. I had in my friend recommended I get a Penang curry. But man, even before getting the Penang curry, you know, so much is happening. I'm just like this foreigner in a strange land. I'm by myself. It's nighttime. I'm like, oh fuck, you know, and for people who have traveled, you get pretty used to that. But for a first timer, first time experience, you know, being in a foreign country by yourself, when there's language barriers and there's so many things firing in the back of the mind, like thoughts of like, okay, what am I going to do with my accommodation? How am I going to get around? How can I get travel? How can I get transport? Like learning the customs, like the culture. There's this whole different culture you have to adapt to. Like you know, like whole different rules. Like people just things like covert contracts that people have set up culturally. So things that are just instilled in the culture. You're adapting to this while like yeah, so feelings of like helplessness, feelings of like, oh shit, you know, like, and watching thought in the mind try to grab onto a narrative. It's trying to grab onto a narrative like, um, oh, you're in trouble, man. Like you gotta think about what you're gonna do tomorrow, what you're gonna do. But it like in this place, man, I gotta slow down. I don't know why I get so excited talking about this. Um, in this place of when the body's like feeling helplessness, it's trying to grab onto a narrative. It's really trying to grab onto a narrative. What I was finding was that it almost forced me to be into the body It forced me to be in immediacy, to not create a narrative, to just be with what is. And even if that was like helplessness, it's like, can I just open up to that helplessness? Like open up and ventilate it with air, like breathe into it and just be mindful of any thought and narrative that's trying to rope me back into a story, which then just basically adds resistance and compounds to the experience, um, which is innocent. Like it's trying to look for safety. It's trying to look for like how can I protect this body from uncertainty and the unknown, basically. But being fully immersed into the unknown, there's a sort of free fall into that and safety that becomes inherent within the sensation itself. So basically, if there's dread, then there's dread, and dread is fully accommodated. If there's helplessness, and helplessness is fully accommodated. If there's sadness, if there's like loneliness, if there's like wanting to grab onto something, that's just another sensation. And then we can drop that label. Well, I was dropping this label and then just being fully with sensation again. And then it's just, okay, take the next step. What's the next step from here? I don't need to plan everything. I don't need to overanalyze too much. It's just being. Okay, let's see what else we got. Yeah, man, so much of that was going on, and that went on for like quite a while. Like just adapting and being with sensation. I was kind of surprised at like how much uncomfortable stuff was arising, um, on an ongoing basis. Like being in a completely unknown situation, having the body being so open to experience it, but only the mind that's putting things in time can know that. Like, oh wow, this is going on for so long, this painful experience. But again, that's just a thought. It's like thought is reflecting and putting things in time, in past and future. So anytime that thought would arise of, oh, this has been so uncomfortable, this is so uncomfortable, and it continues to be, it's just like, oh, that's a thought, and then just feel and put attention back into bodily sensation. Breathe into it and open the heart to it. Like you can be here. And then that brings and reconverges back into the immediacy of what's actually here right now, rather than, oh, this is like, this pain's been going on for so long. It's just like, no, back here. Oh, this pain's been going on. Oh, will it go on forever? So going into future, and then this back into here constantly. Right? Yeah. What else we got here? Just a couple of photos I took as a oh my god, this is another thing. Fucking hell, like trying to figure out. There's different power adapters. So I'm like trying to find these power adapters. Like walking around to different stores, overcoming language barriers with Thai people. Yeah. Anyway, so that's just a small little thing, but all this. They have different power sockets in Thailand, so I like couldn't charge my stuff for a while because I didn't have the right power jack. Checking out the big Buddha statue in Koh Samui. But let's see if I can bring this into something that's relevant for like the traumatized mind, going into unknown situations. Such a charming topic, right? Having to get SIM cards. Yeah, see, I'll just show you. See, this is the Australian charger. Okay, let's see how to focus. There we go. That's the Australian charger. It's like diagonal. But in Thailand and in Vietnam, you have to use these vertical ones like this. So the diagonal Australian ones don't fit. So I had to buy, like, I couldn't find an adapter for the life of me. So that was a pain in the ass. Anyway, made do. We got there eventually. Now this is where I made that video, one of my recent ones. So this is just a recording of me in a cafe. Well, Sam Inception. We got two Sams here. So that's on my YouTube channel. And I will say, like this sort of stuff, like filming in public like this, it's pretty uncomfortable for me still. So So I'm constantly, really, my heart's intention was just to open my heart to uncomfortable and experiences while still being gentle with myself. So I was sitting in a cafe and there's people around. I don't usually like to do that, but I'm like, fuck it. All right, I'm just gonna start filming and then just see what comes up in the body. And stay connected to that authentic bodily experience without going into a coping strategy. So I think, as this might apply to you, just from my experience, is like it's kind of fun. So like playing games where where you just sort of gently push up against the edge of identity without like punishing yourself too much, like just going all in. You don't need to do that, I don't think. But just these like gentle experiences. So for me, this was uncomfortable, like filming in public and just speaking my truth, um, while other people are around and they might criticize. It's like, okay, well, just be with sensation. The only way that it can be a terrible thing is if the mind turns the raw sensory experience of like shame and humiliation, or and not even going as far to label it as such, because then that adds like unnecessary resistance to experience. That can only happen through the mind. So the sensation itself is completely okay. So as I'm filming, I'm like feeling, like contraction. I'm literally in my neck, like feeling like this, like, ugh, it's like icky. Don't show this. Like, what are you doing? Initially, it sort of dropped away as I fell into a groove of communicating. But it's like you can be here. Like, okay, let me just open my heart to this, and then let intuition speak through me. Like, let intuition, let the mind, let the narratives just drop away, and just be with what is. You know. And that came through in I think it comes through in a beautiful way. I think it's authentic. It feels authentic as well. Because for me, like, just personally, like the more that I've opened up to authenticity by being with bodily sensation, the more that it just feels right. It feels so inauthentic to be distanced from the body and then communicate from a place of like mind identification now, of being lost in thought. That's what I'm finding, at least. Just want to take 60 seconds to just stop talking. I feel like I'm a little, as I mentioned that, I just feel like I'm a little bit out of my body, like just slightly. So just want to sit in silence. I invite you to do the same if you want to. Just dropping into the body more. So nice. That speaks. That silence speaks much more than all the words that I've been vomiting out. Honestly, it's nice to remind myself of that. So then, anyway, I started exploring more. So once I had established myself into the unknown more, overcoming the initial things, And one of them, by the way, was I mentioned recording in public, but before that, I skipped over this. I had to learn how to ride a scooter. Right, so being the first time I'd ever ridden a scooter in a foreign country, that was a pretty scary experience. And even going to rent a bike, get a bike rental from people, that was, again, it's just it's a similar thing. Like it always comes back to this simplicity of like uncomfortable sensations arising in the body, fear, dread, discomfort, uh, unworthiness. Maybe I think that came up for me a bit. Excitement too. Um, but being like having to go to like bike rentals, for example, like a motorbike rental place, and then have and like negotiate with them, like, okay, I want to take this bike for 30 days, and then and then coming up against resistance from them, having the heart be open to feel like the pain of like them pushing up against and like coming into conflict, basically negotiating that feeling of like being in conflict, um, but still asserting boundaries. It's it's still an area that is being felt into. And I know with social interaction, that's a huge thing for me, is like the social piece, engaging with people, being like a very empathic person. I feel what other people feel. So to be negotiating and then being met with like no from people, and then to feel the very viscerally the sense of like withdrawing from that, wanting to withdraw, but then just being in bodily sensation full on, like, okay, I'm not going anywhere. I'm going to stay with this. And sometimes it would get me. Sometimes that feeling would get me, and I'd be like, okay, I'm going to withdraw. I don't want to be here. It's like, well, okay, that's fine. Let's meet that feeling of failure almost, and then just reconverging into it and just, okay, I'm right here. Like, well, I'm not going anywhere. We're going to take that next step again. We're not going to give up, right? So it's like what I was discovering was I was discovering these very human limitations within my psyche. And I was noticing how my mind was like trying to compare myself to other people, like a big one was for me was like Frank Yang. Like he's this like super eccentric dude. Yeah. He's like this fucking he's going out there and he's filming himself playing violin naked in public and shit. And I noticed like, oh, like man, this Frank Yang, he's so much more enlightened than me. Like these sorts of stories, like these sorts of stories would come on as I'm like engaging in these like small encounters with people. Um, and but you see how it's just compounding resistance on top of what's actually happening. What's here right now for me is a feeling of insecurity. And okay, I'm just going to be with that then. I'm going to drop the label of being insecure. And I'm just going to meet Sam and all of his karmic propensities, exactly where the fuck he is right now. And I'm not going to and I'm going to open up to whatever's here so fully in an act of authenticity and surrender. If that is resistance, then so be it. That is resistance. That's what's here. That's what's happening. I can't deny that right now. So I'm going to be with that. If that's humiliation, it's humiliation. Or if it's joy, I'm talking a lot about the negatives, but there's also, of course, there's positives as well. But I think it's more poignant to speak about the painful experiences because that's what we relate to more when we're waking up. But and all the while I speak like this, I'm always looking for the positive orientation as well. I'm always looking for joy. Like, can I orient to joy through this experience? Where can joy be found? Where can joy be celebrated through these experiences? Because I found that for me, the more that I focused on like the shadow of the painful stuff, it sort of actually set up that's almost what the mind and the intention of the mind was looking for. It was always looking for like the uncomfortable things in experience. Yeah. But when it's like, okay, what's joyful about this expression right now? What is to be loved? What is to be celebrated here as well? while not denying or like bypassing the uncomfortable experiences. But it's like, can I find that flavor, that subtle flavor of joy, and make that the primary orientation? So it's like, even through humiliation, even through grief, even through like being helpless, it's like, okay, it's right here. Let me, like, can I find the joy between that? Just reading the comments here, you guys are awesome. Yeah, Ted, that was a nice, pleasant sit. Hey, silence, man. Reeb, you said, I'm resonating with everything you're saying lately. I'm noticing a lot more in social situations. I'm not dissociating from the body as much as I used to, so that I could act like a clown. Dude, I love that. That's huge progress. Knowing where you've come from. Like, oh man, yeah, I'm so proud of you, dude. I just because obviously we know each other. I'm not going to disclose anything as to what we've talked about, but I'm so proud of you, man. Is it like that? It feels so good, doesn't it? Just like to be authentic, like, right? Even if you feel like shit in a social situation as you're waking up, when you're speaking with people, even if you feel all of the contractions, all of the coping strategies, all of the resistance, it's just like, thank God I'm actually with my authentic expression rather than going into these like coping strategies and mechanisms, dude. Yeah, so it's huge. Jenna, God bless you too. Thank you for being here. Thank you, Ted. Yeah, I receive you, man. I receive that. I feel that from you. Yeah, awesome. Anyway, yeah, so I feel a lot of heart here. I feel it feels very nice to talk about this stuff and to have you guys here. It's really nice. So yeah, learning to ride a bike. Thankfully, I was able to find a rental place that they actually showed me how to ride a bike. Like, where the guy took me out to a random little field, and he showed me how to use the accelerator and use the bike in a safer way. So that was nice. So just overcoming these little internal resistances by being with what is a consistent theme that came to me while I spent my 30 days in Thailand. So yeah, and then it had its rewards. I went. I was able to go out. I started exploring like various temples in the area. I met a cool girl there, and we hung out for a while, and we at this temple. Yeah, just solo travel. Like, occasionally you meet people that you resonate with, and we chilled for the day, and that was nice too. Like, again, this social piece, this social interaction piece. It's been a big thing for me. Like, I've always been withdrawn, basically. In fact, I would hide behind spirituality and meditating like 2 hours a day in my room doing Vipassana, and I would distance myself from other people because it was so inherently uncomfortable. I think because I'm very sensitive, but I also have a lot of, I guess, karma in this direction to be like, a big thing for me has been around performance, like needing to push myself higher than other people. Um, through like various coping strategies. Maybe that's partially why I make videos. I don't know. Um, uh, maybe initially it feels like it's coming more and more from my heart now, which is really nice to see. But I know in like high school, for example, like I was quite an anxious person, and I developed all of these coping strategies that actually rewarded me. Like, I became a school captain of my school, but I was actually an anxious wreck. But everyone saw the confident persona, and that confident persona was rewarded by making me into a school captain. Where, a lot of that's burning up through presence. I want to make a video about this as well. I love the line from this beautiful piece, affirming faith in mind. And it says this, so maybe you can let this in. It says, just calmly see that all is one. and by themselves, false views will go. Just calmly see. I love that. That calmly see. It's like just soften your body, open up. Just calmly see that all is one. Rest as presence, in other words. Don't add any labels, be reductive, and just let your body come to a natural rest. Just see that all is one, and by themselves, false views will go. My experience of that is like as we relax in presence, any somatic contraction, any narrative, anything that is saying this is who you are, it's like the rug is constantly being pulled out underneath that through direct experience. This has been my experience. So like as I rest as presence, these subtle ways that the mind tries to form an identity is uprooted through the direct contact with presence. And that's felt as somatic release, as like energy releasing from the body as well. Yeah. So that line is so powerful. Arib, no, I haven't seen that. You said, "Hey Sam, have you heard the myth?" I'll say it for the recording. You said, "Hey Sam, have you heard the myth of Tiamat and Marduk? It's a really beautiful symbol of the traumatized mind." No, I haven't, dude. I would. Can you please tell me? I would be curious to know. So I did as I was saying, I think went on a big sidetrack there, but I met up with this girl. Yeah, I've always been withdrawn, but what was been really powerful for me in Thailand is to connect with other people on a regular basis, meet all these solo travelers, meet other travelers, and people, and be forced into social situations so that I can continuously meet with an open heart a lot of this conditioning that I was encountering growing up. And rather than going into uh, coping strategies, dissociating from the body, needing to perform, it was like coming into contact with that very innocent, repressed emotion that wants to compensate, and then just meeting it, just like softening into it with like a firmness, but a gentleness at the same time, and like breathing into it. And just this sense of like, it's okay. Like you've done your job. I know you really want to show these people that you're like confident or whatever. It's like, I know you've done your job, but you don't need to do that anymore. I'm right here with you, giving you attention. So hanging out with people for like even like a whole day through this lens of like deep embodied authenticity it was just precipitating these much richer, honest, no bullshit interactions with people, dropping the narrative like constantly, you know. Again, opening up to joy, opening up to timelessness as well. So like, oh, I was contracted in that moment. Okay, now I can let go of that. What's here now? Now, 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 now. Instantly refreshing, like constantly like the mind, watching the mind do its little dance of trying to like, no, no, like this is how you are, this is how you are, this is how you are. And then just like, oh, feeling that sensation in the body, ventilating it, breathing into it, and just naturally letting go and releasing. Release, release, release. Be with what is, release. Not solidifying any narrative, and even like spiritual narratives, yeah, like spiritual stories or spiritual fronts of like, oh, you know, I'm like the soft-spoken, relaxed one, all this crap. So many narratives. I think, as I said before, what I notice is the more you abide as awareness, the more you soften the mind, soften the mind, soften the mind, let it come to a natural rest. Anything that is an identity that has been carried with us is so easily seen because it's felt. You feel the quality of resting as presence, as resting as awareness. And through repeated meditation, you feel, and bringing it out into daily life, there's a certain quality to that. It's like untainted by any belief, and even like somatic contraction, even pain in the body. It's untainted by that. It's untouched by any of that. So it's like any identity is therefore seen so clearly, because you have that almost like that contrast of experience. Um, you have that contrast of experience of being in a free fall of release, and then what it feels like to have the mind clench up into a fist. It's like, whoa, soften, clench into a fist, soften, clench into a fist. And then it's like when you know that quality of what it feels like to have an unclenched fist, whenever the fist clenches, you know it's there. And then it's just about meeting that clenched fist with loving intention, softening into the body. Okay. So yeah, then I ended up catching up with that girl, and we did a cooking class. I did a cooking class. What's gonna rotate? Thai cooking class, which was good fun. Learned how to cook some really cool dishes. Uh, Man, this is gonna. Maybe I should pick it up a little bit. There's so much I could talk about. And then like through this opening up and this courageousness, it then opened up opportunities, right? Because I wasn't shying away, hiding in my room, meditating anymore. It's like I'm gonna go out. I'm gonna go and do shit. Like what is the next step? What's something cool that I could? Like, what does the heart want to do today? Right. So, because other than seeing clients and working with clients one on one, I didn't have many obligations. So it really opened me up for these first for this time to just listen to the heart and act from spontaneity without the pressure of needing to be something, needing to like, oh, gotta work, I've got to do something, I've got to. It's just like, what does this body mind need? What does this body mind want? And engaging with spontaneity rather than planning and just spinning the mind in circles over like, how am I going to organize my future and how am I going to do all this crap? It's just like, just let that go. Walking through the streets of what's this? That's Copenhagen. Copenhagen. This is in the party district, right? Oh, that's another thing I did. Yeah, I'm not a partier. I've never been a partier. I've always kind of found it to be pretty uncomfortable. But it was fun. I wanted to. I was intentionally wanting to push the limits of my identity. Like I was just with a curiosity. Like, what happens when I go into a party situation? What happens when I go into a situation that my mind would otherwise want to resist? And feeling all this discomfort in the body. So like going out to these sorts of things and just walking around as like this explorer, going to like fire shows and stuff. Like so I was in the party district for the Blue Moon party on Copenhagen. And I challenged myself. I'm like, I'm going to do this completely sober. I'm going to go to a party scene. I don't consider myself a party person, but I wanted to see how my mind would react to, like sexual energies and these sorts of things of people partying and like, twerking and all sorts of shit. Or like, people drinking and smoking weed. And people smoke weed like crazy over here in Copenhagen. Over at Copenhagen. I'm not in Copenhagen. I'm in Vietnam now, but and even like in being in these situations, the spiritual identity was like coming online. It would be like, oh, these people, they're distracting themselves and they're distancing themselves from God and they're trying to numb out. But I'm just noticing this projection that I'm just like creating separation for these people. Like, who gives a fuck if they're partying, if they're distracting themselves? I guess in a way they sort of are, right? But the way that the mind creates, and it creates this identity of like, oh, I don't distract myself. Like I'm above that. I'm beyond that. I'm a meditator. And it would do these things, and it would create this like, and it creates this sense of superiority, like subtle superiority to other, which creates separation and suffering. I noticed when I could soften away from that, when I could forego those judgments, then I could just open up through loving attention to be again with the uncomfortable experience if it was arising, and then let that clenched fist just release. And then I would just start dancing, just like oots, 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 with the music for the full moon party. It's just like, like the classic, like, just like, yeah, fuck yeah, like let's go, and like opening up to it, and it was so fun to do that sober. I say fun, but it was pretty painful. I didn't stay that long actually because it was ultimately I'm still learning. Like, you know what, this body mind has preferences. Maybe I don't like to party. Yeah, it's going to take a minute here. So, Arib, I want to read your. I asked you to tell me about Tiamat and Marduk. So let's have a look. You said Tiamat is the goddess of salt water, and Abzu the god of fresh water. The Babylonians saw the sky as freshwater ocean. Freshwater ocean. Wow. So it's like they're intermixed. Tiamat is a reptile. She represents the feminine, earthly, raw unrestrainability of nature, and Abzu is the masculine, celestial one of their children. Of their children, Marduk usurps Abzu's these names. It's so hard. Power of the heavens, and using a net captures Tiamat and kills her. It's Marduk. I really resonate. You said I really resonated with this myth because Marduk, the human mind, or Marduk's apprehension of Tiamat, the reptilian brain, using a net represents such a common archetype of the traumatized mind casting a net on the body to control it because it's unpredictable and untrustworthy and embarrasses a person when it gets rebellious and expresses itself authentically. Wow, dude. Wow, that's awesome. And that's so true, bro. Like that's what I notice, and I think it's something that's really not talked about that much. Is as this awakening process unfolds, and the somatic pain body, the traumatized heart, what that does, and this is something that I had a conversation with Christina Gamand around. We talked about TRE, trauma release exercises, in an interview. When that somatic pain body is really flared up, like it's in full fight or flight mode, we're feeling like frozen energies. What the mind does is it goes into narrative very willingly, very quickly, through these innocent strategies that we learn through childhood to distance ourselves from the pain. So that's one thing I've had to learn too, is like when that's happening is just keep bringing attention into the body, and we truly have the capacity to be with whatever's there. And the mind it'll be like this. It's sometimes it can feel like pain in the body, and then it's like we go into the mind, in the body, in the mind, in the body, in the mind, in the body, and that can just feel like this washing machine of reactivity and uncomfortable emotion. And it's amazing. I really respect my one of my ex facilitators that I don't work with her much these days, but she still, I would highly recommend her to anyone. Her name's Violet Synergy, Angelo's partner, Angelo Dilullo's partner. At this moment, I don't know if they're still together. I haven't checked, but I think they are. That's despite the point. But Violet, she's realized profound things like no self, right? She's really embodied in this work, and she facilitates people. And she made this really authentic video. I think it was called Real Talk. It started with Real Talk, and she talked about like even though she's realized no self, She gave a really vivid description of what it's like to have somatic pain that feels like resistance through an awakened mind. And I agree with her. I think, these are things that I resonate with in my experience as well, having had a shift in identity myself, is like it's you watch spiritual teachers. We can watch spiritual teachers, and then we can subtly compare ourselves to, like, when we're feeling these somatic contractions. We get given the instruction of, okay, just keep coming back to body sensation, or just rest as awareness, and all of this stuff will sort itself out. But then we're in a social situation or something that really triggers us, and then we're having this washing machine effect, and we're like, what the fuck is going on? And and sometimes that can come in with this added layer of resistance of a comparative mindset of, like, I should be above this, I should be beyond this, I should, like. And then, but through fierce grace, we can then feel into these identities of, like, comparison, of, like, not being enough, and we can feel that. But until we really communicate it, it's shown to us that actually it's totally natural for that to happen. And all that we're asked to do, I think, is just open the heart to the somatic pain, the somatic contraction, just feel it and be willing to forego identities as much as we can. And sometimes that takes a bit of belief investigation in my experience. Like, if we're really in that state constantly, we need to actually probe into the somatic pain and do some inquiry into it, like ask questions like, what is the worst that could happen right now? What am I afraid of? And let the emotion tell you. Then often that can calm the mind down enough to then we can start to be more, like, relaxed in presence, to then let go more deeply. But if the mind's like, oh, fuck it, then it's like adding this resistance on top. Like, I should be beyond this. I should be above this. Like, I've been meditating for this long. I should be beyond this. It's just added unnecessary resistance to experience. Yeah. So Ted, I just want to read what you said. I've figured out a way to get great Thai food without flying around the world. I take alms to help the monks at local monastery in Colorado. Everybody there except for me is Thai. After we feed the monks, we sit down to a great potluck meal. The Thai food is marvelous. Oh, dude, you figured it out. You figured out life, my friend. Just the simplicity of giving to monks and then eating potluck and meditating. That's all you need. You figured it out. You don't even need to work anymore. Just take them something and then just get free food after. Maybe you need to work a little bit. It's going to take another 30, maybe like another minute. Sit in presence. Yeah, I notice the gut tightens up a little bit when I talk too long. So it's nice just to let attention come to a natural rest and be in the body more. So I just want to realign to that intention of what will be helpful through my explorations in consciousness to the traumatized heart. Okay. Let's have a look what else is here. Oh yeah, wow. Speaking of I won't go into specifics, but speaking of social interaction, had a wonderful I met somebody so in alignment with this path of unfoldment. Before I say that, Ted, you asked, do you take meditation breaks like that routinely through your day? Yeah, I mean, I always meditate now. I feel like practice, it feels more like practice enlightenment now, like where there's this constant attention in the body and there's always like that propensity of mind to come to a natural rest. But if I notice like the body's stirred up a little bit, like there's like, yeah, like maybe a bit of a, like I'm talking too much or something, I take a moment, yeah, just like more intentionally take a moment to settle in, just take inventory, like what's here, what's in the body. A lot of this sort of presence is still integrating. So yeah, sometimes it takes a bit more intentionality just to rest back. I love this photo, man. It's in Thailand. Like they have this was on the mainland. They had these like beautiful temples, and then they had like this at this temple. They had like two dinosaurs out the front of it. Like, what the fuck? Look at this photo. It looked like that dinosaur looks like it's on acid or something. And me too. Like, why would they have two dinosaurs like that out the front of it? Man, it doesn't make any sense. Maybe it does. Oh man, and yeah, but I was as I was saying, I met up with this wonderful person, and just to be on a similar wavelength, having a earnestness to connect to truth, um, poking each other's buttons in identity structure in really healthy and safe ways. Hung out with that person for 9 days in the mainland. So I actually left Koh Phangan. I was on this island, Koh Phangan. I mentioned before I was in Koh Samui, and then you take a ferry over to Koh Phangan, which is an island right next to Koh Samui. Koh means island in Thai, so island Samui, island Koh Phangan. Um, and I ended up leaving Koh Phangan after a week because I got an invitation to catch up with this person for 9 days. Or it was only 2 days initially, but then we got along so well that it was just so beautiful. Like I'm so grateful. We hung out for quite some time. Check out this freaking insect, man. Look at this. It's as big as my hand. I just cut my hand there. You see in the top, but look at the size of that motherfucker. Like in Australia, it'd be like Steve Irwin, like, crikey, get a load of this one. Oh man. This, but yeah, see, I think what happened here is I just started exploring more. I was really listening to my heart. What's exciting here? What's actually, um, while getting access to this courage that was coming through, just the capacity to be with what is arising. Hmm. So this really fat pig. He's just chilling at a restaurant. Actually, his hair, I felt it. I felt his hair, this pig, and it was all like wiry. I don't think I've ever felt a pig like that before. It was all wiry and kind of like, ugh, I don't know. But he's kind of cool. Just a pig chilling at the cafe. This is the cafe that I would have lunch at every breakfast every morning. It like overlook the ocean. But I'll tell you what though, it's a really good thing to point out is um, something that was really interesting for me. What became apparent to me more and more was I wasn't there so much for the tourism of seeing all these like cool, beautiful sights. I was there more so to connect wholeheartedly and open up to my experience with equanimity, basically. The amount of times that I went to a beautiful location, for instance, it had the same quality to it as sitting in my room, sitting on the beach, being on a beautiful lookout overlooking this vast location. Didn't really matter. Like, see, like, I went to this location here. I took a nice little touristy photo, yeah, as you do. I took a tourist photo. Beautiful location, but you know what? It had the same quality. I might upload this video maybe on YouTube at some point, but when I was in Thailand at the end, I just got a text from my house stay that they're gonna do lunch in 15 minutes, so I better wrap this up soon. But yeah, like it had the same quality of neutrality. You know, at the end of the day, there's six senses: seeing, hearing, feeling, smelling, taste, and thought. So it's like being on this huge, beautiful lookout. Yes, it was like I could say it was pleasant. Maybe it elicited some pleasant experience in the body of like relaxing peace. But that same fullness can be found in taking a shit. Or, like it's uh, almost like the just resting as presence in that ephemeral, unnameable, ineffable experience of spaciousness that is within all of us. Call it God, call it awareness. That has the same quality. I can find that anywhere. And colors, shapes, forms, images, sounds, it's all equally as good. And yet I will again though, I will say there is like some pleasantness that can arise and there still is a curiosity to want to explore and go out and do things. Like the body just wants to do that. But like I wasn't that attracted to, and I haven't been that attracted to all these marvelous things. Like, and I was saying to my dear friend, one of my really close friends, that like, I went to these holy sites, right? These like holy Buddha sites. You see statues of Buddhas and like all this like while the energy in these places certainly feels like it's almost like you get a hit of shakti, you get a hit of openness, of like expansiveness. It feels like that, and that's all good. But even having like a coconut on the beach, it's like, oh, it's so beautiful. Wow, And there's these beautiful girls playing volleyball, like in bikinis and stuff. It's like, holy shit, this is heaven. But it's amazing how much narrative the mind then adds on to experience. The mind will then say like, oh, this is, like I'm escaping, I'm free. But right, it's just thoughts. What if you drop the thought of like this being this epic thing and then just come back into presence, into immediacy? And then again, there's just senses. There's like six senses. And that can be found anywhere, right? So like there's so much the mind adds to experience with travel that is like unnecessary. And sure, there's like the body likes pleasant experiences, but it was like no big deal. Oh shit, yeah. And this is me trying to be a party boy at the so I'm fully sober here at the Copenhagen night party, full moon party. It's a very famous party. People going hard, but tell you what, when I was filming that video, like in the body, Jesus, yeah, that's a pretty good image of. Look at this dude, man. Look at this spiritual seeking dude. Damn, boy. Yeah, just feeling like contracted in that moment, like I talked about earlier, but it's just opening the fist. Contraction, oh, don't want to be here, don't want to be here. Spiritual seeker, oh, soften, back in, soften. Okay, endless release, 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 release. Yeah, loving what is, not pushing, not pulling. Oh, there's a contraction. Okay, that's what's happening, and then finding enjoyment through that as well. Yeah, maybe I'll skim through a lot of this because I think really got across. I met another good friend of mine. Nice sexy photo of us about to kiss or something. I think I've got across a lot of what I want to communicate because ultimately I left Copenhagen. Bon voyage. And then I stayed in Krabi. But yeah, man, it's been such a good experience. There's so much more I could share. I've got so many photos here. Show you my snake charming skills in a sec here. Let me find the video. I went to a little snake show. Check this out. Check this out. Dancing with my snake. Singing. Just doing random things, right? Just stepping in with courage. Like, he goes through my leg, and I've got an 18-inch penis with it, or maybe 50 inches more like snake penis. But no, such a cool experience being with these beautiful animals, snakes. Play that again with volume. Doing the non-dual snake emptiness dance. My new boo boo. My girlfriend. That was a good experience actually. I'll show you guys a couple photos of that. Why not? They got me in the snake pit with a bunch of cobras. Like those things that kill you if they bite you. All three of them. Yeah, some cool stuff happened there, man. I was like the only one there for a while, and they were letting me hold these big snakes and put them over my back, and these sorts of things. So cool. Cancel. How do I show you more photos? Cancel. How do I? What are you doing? Phone. What are you doing? Phone, please. There we go. There's another good one. Another good photo. Oh yeah, this guy. Talk about courage. This guy kissed one of the most poisonous snakes in the world. That thing would kill you if it bit you for sure, like hands down. But yeah, I mean, and then I left to Vietnam. Left to Vietnam. I'm here now. I'm here for 30 days in Vietnam. I've been here for a while. It was my birthday yesterday, by the way. Happy birthday to me. Woo! But yeah, then going through that whole cycle of going into the unknown again. I think building what Thailand showed me is that I have the capacity to be with whatever arises, right? More so, verified through direct experience. So, for that traumatized heart of maybe somebody who's watching this, thanks, Corey. Yeah, I appreciate you, man. Appreciate you. If you're experiencing that sort of trauma, even if it's ongoing, I think what it calls for is to continuously reconverge into the immediacy of experience again and again and again and again. It's fierce grace. I know the stories the mind can throw up. It can say things like, I can't handle this. I'm not capable. That's not what my identity does. Or it like rejects a certain quality of experience of like helplessness or shame or humiliation. It's just like you have this like subtle narrative that can come online. I can't handle this, is what it would say. This is too much for me. And I want to share from my experience is those things have been coming up for me, but to be able to see them clearly and to relax and to soften into the body and allow and take steps anyway has revealed more and more at a deeper level that I do have the capacity. In fact, it's not even me, it's just reality has the capacity for itself to be with experience. And all we have to do is get out of the way and breathe and soften and again use what works to meet these experiences, but we do have the capacity to be with them. I have the capacity to be with them. And if they beat the shit out of us sometimes, and sometimes we need to just curl up into a ball, we can do that. We can give ourselves permission, but also have the firmness to discern, like when we're playing a victim, when we're being the victim to experience, and have the tenderness of the open heart to meet that experience with compassion, balancing those two energies of masculine and feminine to be like, I'm going to go into the unknown. I'm going to have the courage. I'm going to push through this layer of identity. I'm going to see clearly what's happening here. All of the narratives of my mind has been thrusting at me constantly throughout my whole life that I take to be true, like damn well take to be true. And it's verified and it's made more real by the intensity of the contraction, of the emotional contraction. You can then feel that and then soften the mind. Soften the mind. How ruthlessly are we willing to see like a true Buddha, which is within all of us, to see through delusion, to see through delusive hindrance, and then to ultimately see that there is no delusive hindrance, that everything is accommodated. To keep seeing through and penetrating with that sword, like cutting through delusion, and then opening the heart to when we need to, and then just using intuition as the compass, intuition as our guide, our innermost promptings of our heart to guide the way, rather than what society tells us, like saying fuck you to the social matrix, as Angelo titled one of his recent videos, Angelo Dilullo. Yeah, so much I could say about that, and hopefully that wasn't word salad, but that's what came through at this moment, at least. So all of that was a lot of storytelling, and all of it can be found through just quieting the mind and being with authenticity with what's here. I think just keep recognizing true nature and keep deepening in that, and trusting that even if there's pain, it is such a beautiful teacher. Yeah. Good, and maybe just we could sit if there's 4 people here at the moment, so thank you guys for being here. Maybe we could just sit for a little bit. Just let the intellectual mind just drop away, tries to make sense out of everything. Tries to think about how will this apply to me? How can I like grab onto something? It's like it feels like this. It's like a gathering. It's like I want to gather all this information. I want to make it into something. It's just like just soften that. Just soften that into release. Open hand. Surrender it. In Zen, people prostrate. They just lay on the floor and prostrate their hands. Just, I can't do this. I'm going to surrender my mind. I can't do this. Show me the way. And the way is through stillness, I think. Silencing. Corey, my drive is to see clearly and to not suffer as much. I don't even know what the drive is anymore, honestly. It just feels like the heart just naturally wants to open. Truth wants to reveal itself. It's helpful to do inquiries, and I've revisited these questions a lot, actually. Like, what do I think awakening would get for me? And it's nice to revisit them. Yeah, I went through another shadow work iteration of that recently, and that was really nice to see clearly. But I think just what's driving this is intuition. No, it's just like it almost has a life force of itself, and it wants release. It wants rest. It wants to let go more deeply. And maybe there's something more to that, but at the moment, that feels what's here. And for whatever reason, it wants to share that process. I asked myself this morning, like, why do I want to talk about all this shit? It feels so personal. It's so like unique. It's so intimate, but it just um, at the moment, it just feels like that just feels like the natural expression that shows up for me for whatever reason to share about these experiences because that's all I really care about. This is like all, all this stuff, everything I've been talking about. Like I could, it can be communicated through silence. A lot of this is word salad. Some of the best encounters I have with people is just sitting and looking in each other's eyes for 30 minutes and just being in silence. And that's the most beautiful thing in the whole world. A lot of this is talking. So, getting a phone call for my for lunch, guys. So maybe I should end this here. Yeah, thank you, he too. Thanks for being here, man, or girl, or woman, or whatever you are. Just gonna mute myself for a sec. Okay, I think she pocket called, but all right, guys. Fun reflecting on that experience. I hope you got something out of it. I'm just sharing from my own. I hope it resonates with you in some way. Reach out if you want to have a chat about this sort of stuff or something. Just I'm always here through email. I think samroffinquiries@gmail.com or my website. There's a contact form if you just want to talk more intimately or something like that. Even if you just want to have a chat, like whatever it is, I'd keep that door open to you anytime. Yeah, but thanks for being here, guys. Thanks, Corey. Thank you, he too. Thank you, Arib. I appreciate you so much, man. You're a legend. I'm so proud of what you've been going through. Just know, like, talking to you personally. Ted, thanks for being here, man. Jenna, I saw you were in here earlier. I don't know if you're still here. Anyone else who's here, yeah, a lot of love to you. And anyone who didn't make this, I know that there are people who will watch this back. People like Lawrence. I know Lawrence. I really appreciate you, man. Who else? So many other people. Yeah, I love you all. And yeah, I'll enjoy my adventures here in Vietnam. The adventure continues. And then to India. Oh shit! I hope you guys could hear me there. I had the mic away from my mouth, so yeah, I appreciate you, Corey. You too, man. Thank you. Have a great day, evening, night, whatever. A lot of love.